in that respect, insofar as it isn't sort of the bulk of its client base probably isn't sort of a type of tax. I don't want to say the word dodge, but something that might come under scrutiny and things that might want to be closed down by tax authorities in the years to come. I think it might be a bit. So I think SARM and Intertrust, if you think of them as two ends of the spectrum, then JTC is somewhere in the middle, but probably closer to SARM than it is to Intertrust.
Okay. And do you mean that in sort of in business mix or tax mitigation focus?
It's certainly in business mix, because Intertrust is much more corporate and tax, and also in tax sort of
Exposure,
purpose, tax exposure.
Okay, and if you think if we kind of just assume anyway that tax is a small risk for the business, if someone decides, well, first of all, one of the shorter term issues that we're definitely then concerned with is, given everything that's going on with the US tax reform, I mean, the first two clients that JTC sort of said to us as their corporate clients were Walgreens and GE, and we just were like, oh God, like these guys have just got a massive sort of tax benefit.
Yes.
Benefit in the US. Do they even need these entities anymore? And is there a risk that sometime over the next 12 months there's going to be a massive drop in JTC's revenues as they decide to close the entities? Do you think that's a risk, or do they just let these entities roll on until it's over, or do they still see the benefit of the entities?
It's interesting, isn't it? Because companies strategically, these US companies are doing different things with the tax benefit that they've been given. So whereas in the past they had assets offshore because they couldn't repatriate them without incurring a huge amount of tax. And so the profits that they were earning offshore would just be rolled up and rolled up and rolled up. And their offshore assets were getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So by repatriating, they can either hold those repatriated assets available for future investments, or they can give them to the shareholders, or give them to staff. And so all the companies in the US are sort of deciding what to do with these assets. Some of them are doing share buybacks and other things, which means it won't be reinvested. So I think that it depends on the strategy of the companies that are key to JTC, but there is a sort of homeward bound investment. But then again, if their strategy is to continue to invest globally, then they'll probably carry on using companies like JTC for the vehicles through which they invest. And if they've got a book of investments, it won't be liquid, so they won't repatriate sort of illiquid investments that are invested offshore. They'll only do it as and when they sell them and the proceeds are received. So it's very hard to say what the particular impact will be on the key clients of JTC, because it may be negative in that GE might decide to have a realization strategy for their global investments and unwind these things slowly over time and then give the money back to their shareholders. Or they might decide that investing globally is a great idea, and although they'll repatriate the profits and take advantage of that tax, they'll send the money back out globally and continue to invest. So it comes down to, I think both options are available to a company like GE. I suppose in the past, both options haven't been available. They haven't even been able to repatriate this money. So it may be that their strategy is fine and JTC won't be affected, but it might be that it isn't, and they will be.
But I guess, yeah, so there's definitely a change then. There probably is a change in the demand profile, but I guess it doesn't sound like it's going to be this sudden, they lose a whole load of entities. It sounds like a company would wait for it to wind down in order to actually do it.
Yeah, okay. Definitely. And
why
I think
is
they'll
that?
continue.
Because it's likely to close it early.
Well, if